Men of Reddit who proposed and she said no. What happened afterwards with your life? My mother told my father no 3 times. On the 3rd time he got wasted at a local bar and basically started pouring his heart out to anyone who'd listen. Mind you, it's a very small village in the Italian Alps and my father barely spoke Italian and no one in the village spoke English, including my mother. Word got back to my mom about this sad American at the bar, so she went to find him and she told him she'd marry him. My parents celebrated their 44th anniversary last month. This sounds like a genuinely romantic movie. She was an art major and I had just joined the army. We had been lovers since high school. I asked. She said no. She wanted to get her master's. We were friends for a while but we don't talk anymore. She works as a bartender I think now. I ended up getting married to my best friend. We've been married for more than a decade and have a 5-year-old son. Oh, I have a story about this. My friend A had been with his girlfriend B for years. So he decided he wanted to propose. What he didn't know is that B was also thinking about proposing to him. A proposed first, and B freaked out because she had already said her proposal and bought a ring. So she said no. Over the next week, B freaked out more and more, and refused to answer A's calls and messages. A then decided to use the money he had saved up to buy a plane ticket to Europe. What was supposed to be a 3-month trip through Western Europe turned out to be a year-long trip around the world. One day, A says that he's coming back and B decides to go and wait for him at the airport and propose to him there. It turns out that while being in Peru, A met a girl and they fell in love almost immediately, and got married in Peru. 5 years later, A and his Peruvian wife are still happily married and recently had a baby. While B hasn't still quite forgiven herself for ruining her relationship with A. I don't understand why B would say no if that was what she wanted to. I can understand the initial no if she wanted to do her plan instead. But cutting off all contact was a fatal mistake. As a woman who was engaged and the proposal was later revoked, it still stings a little 11 years later. When you're sure you're with the love of your life, losing them can really pop a hole in your life plans. When did you start to feel better? It's been 7 months and I still can't believe we're not getting married. I miss him and our dog and our house every day. But according to him, he ruined everything and doesn't want me back because our relationship will always be damaged. I feel like I've died. We met in her home country of Germany while I was traveling. I knew I was in love. We dated long distance for a while. Me flying to Europe, her flying to the US. I suggested marriage so we could be together. She said no a few times. I didn't press. But I was patient and not being pushy. I knew she was worth the wait. Then it hit her, that's how we could be together. If we got married, we could live in a country together. The difficulties of being born on a different patch of dirt. A few years later, I'm still married to my best friend and living with her in Germany. Not all no's stay no. Life goes on. I never saw her again. Less than a year later I met my wife. We've been together 15 years. My husband asked 3 times in the span of a couple months. We had dated for 3 years. He was ready. I wanted to graduate college first. Also, don't propose by handing your so a ring while you're both in the car on the way to Burger King. I'm low maintenance. But put some thought into it. My ex-husband didn't get the chance to propose. He had been keeping the ring hidden at his mom and dad's house. We were on our way out to dinner at a nice restaurant and we stopped at their house on the way there. I thought we were just there to say hi. We sat down for a few minutes and he excused himself to go to the bathroom. His mom followed him out of the room and returned a few moments later with him at her heels. Tossed the ring box into my lap. And said, "I guess this is yours." I was peeping shocked. We had just found out I was pregnant and he had been planning to propose at Christmas but decided to do it early. His mother didn't like me. And she's definitely at least one of the things we divorced over. Wow. Sorry. We lived together for another 6 years until she changed her mind and told me that I should ask again. We were engaged for over a year and got married in 1991. We are still married. Have 3 children. And are both still very much in love. Why the initial no? Didn't have enough XP. His persuasion wasn't high enough yet. My dad proposed to a woman who said no. My dad was a violent alcoholic and she said she couldn't be with him unless he got clean. Took him a little while. But he did it. He wound up meeting my mom through a matchmaker and they've been married 25 years. If that woman never said no to him, he never would have gotten clean. It was the lowest point in his life. But it all brought him to my mom who makes him happier than ever. My dad talks to her sometimes. She got married to someone else and they had a son who died from a medical condition. Well, that story went well until the last 6 words. She had cancer. I said we should get married because I had full medical coverage from my work. She said no. And over time we grew apart. Haven't talked to her in 15 years. Don't know if she died. I know a couple who did just that. He proposed in order to give her citizenship and health insurance so she could remain here and get cancer treatment she desperately needed. They stayed married for about 15 years and he even adopted her son. But they never lived together or were romantically involved. Years later, they divorced when he met the woman of his dreams and wanted to get married. They are all very close friends. With no drama. She lived and is a university professor now. He is in another state with the woman of his dreams. That's actually beautiful. So this actor, Patrick Wood, proposes to his girlfriend at a basketball game and gets turned down. While on the giant jumbotron. Clip goes on YouTube. Etc. Etc. She tells him later that she turned him down because she thinks his dick is too small. So he travels around the world, documenting what other cultures think about penis size and penis enlargement. And made a movie about it called Unhung Hero. I've never watched it, but the title alone makes me laugh. God, I thought that would be a joke. This is the story of my parents. My dad asked my mom to marry him several times. She said no. Several times. One day my dad asked my mom to marry him yet again. She said yes. He freaked out and left her apartment and dumped her. 3 weeks later he hated his life without her and begged her to take him back and marry him. They were married 9 months later for 16 years until my mom passed from cancer. They loved each other so much and had such a deep appreciation for each other. That was 25 years ago. My dad has not remarried. No one will ever come close to my mama. Dated a woman for over 2 years and popped the question. First time she said I don't know. A couple months later I asked her again. She said maybe. I was pretty bent out of shape. But then I found out she was sleeping with several of my friends, so I dodged a bullet there really. I was a young Marine. I was only home during the weekends. Was dating this girl for about a year from my hometown. When I asked, she said yes. Her dad, former Navy, kept saying we should wait. We put it off for a bit longer. Fast forward another year. She dumped me. Father informs me she has been sleeping with a lot of guys. like more than 50 over the 2 years we dated. And was very happy I didn't marry her. And apologizes to me for her behavior. She then totally ghosting everyone including her family for about 6 months. Find out she moved 7 HRS away and was living under a house. Not a basement. Under a house with her new BF. She calls her mom to come get her. Mother and father ask me to go get her and bring her home. Good times. Good times. My mom and dad were not married and wanted a kid and had me. My dad, being Catholic and Hispanic, decided he wanted to be married to my mom and proposed. She said no because she hadn't been divorced from her first husband for very long and now had 3 young kids and preferred to stay not married. He threatened to leave her and got on his motorcycle and started to drive away until my mom chased him down and gave in, leading to what my parents call the voodoo wedding the same day. I'm going to need more details about the voodoo wedding if you have them. From my understanding, the way it went down was they immediately flipped through a phone book looking for someone who would marry them for free that same day. They eventually came across a small mom and pop store / restaurant in a bad part of town called the Cud that agreed to do it in a back room using their staff as witnesses. It was a quick 5-minute ceremony that ended with the officiant making them eat a meal with them. To their dismay, they were charged for all of it and had to run home to break open the quarter jar.